In the quiet halls of Riverside High School, the anticipation hung thick in the air as students shuffled nervously into the cavernous exam room. Desks were neatly aligned in rows, and the clock on the wall ominously counted down the minutes until the dreaded physics test. At the center of it all sat Jason, a high-achieving student known for his perfectionism. He had spent countless nights poring over textbooks and meticulously reviewing his notes. Today was the day he had to prove himself once again. His parents expected nothing less than excellence, and Jason had never disappointed them. But the pressure was beginning to weigh heavily on his young shoulders. As the exam papers were handed out, Jason's heart raced. He scanned the questions, realizing they were more challenging than he had anticipated. Doubt crept in, and he could feel the anxiety taking hold. His mind raced with thoughts of failure and disappointment. Just as he was about to let panic overtake him, the soft voice of Mr. Johnson, his physics teacher, rang in his ears. "Remember, Jason," he whispered, "the journey is just as important as the destination." Jason looked around, surprised to find Mr. Johnson standing by his desk. He had always been a teacher known for his unusual wisdom. "What do you mean?" Jason asked, his voice shaky. "Think of this test as a journey of discovery," Mr. Johnson said. "Instead of obsessing over the grade you'll receive, focus on the joy of learning. Embrace the challenge and don't be afraid to make mistakes." Jason nodded, not entirely sure if he understood. But there was something about Mr. Johnson's words that resonated with him. He took a deep breath and began to tackle the test with a new mindset. The minutes ticked away, and Jason dove into the questions. He didn't worry about perfection. He simply did his best. When he encountered a problem he couldn't solve, he didn't panic. Instead, he remembered Mr. Johnson's words and moved on to the next one. As the final minute approached, Jason finished the last question, feeling a mix of relief and accomplishment. He looked at the clock and realized he had used every precious minute. When the results were posted a week later, Jason didn't immediately rush to see his grade. Instead, he thought back to Mr. Johnson's lesson and the importance of the journey. Slowly, he made his way to the bulletin board. His eyes scanned the list of names and scores until he found his own. His heart skipped a beat when he saw the score, 87%. It was a good grade, but not the perfect score he was used to. Jason hesitated, but then he remembered the journey, the mistakes he'd made, and the things he'd learned along the way. He smiled, realizing that this test was just one step on a much longer path of discovery. As he walked away from the bulletin board, Jason felt a weight lifting off his shoulders. He knew that the pursuit of knowledge was more important than any grade, and that sometimes the most valuable lessons were learned in the journey itself.